The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, revealing a quiet, polished hallway lined with glass offices and muted conversations. Amara Johnson stepped out, her heels clicking softly against the marble floor. Each step measured, calm, and confident. She adjusted the sleeve of her blazer slightly, not out of nervousness, but out of habit. She had walked into rooms like this before, rooms where decisions were made in seconds, rooms where people decided who mattered and who didn't. At the reception desk, the woman behind the counter glanced up briefly, her eyes scanning Amara from head to toe in a way that felt more like judgment than acknowledgement. "Can I help you?" she asked, her tone flat. "I'm here for the 10 a.m. interview, Amara Johnson," she replied, her voice steady. The receptionist paused for a second longer than necessary, then looked back at her screen. "Have a seat," she said, gesturing vaguely toward a waiting area without making eye contact again. Amara nodded politely and walked over, sitting down with her back straight, her hands resting calmly in her lap. Around her, a few other candidates sat scrolling through their phones, adjusting ties, reviewing notes. No one spoke, but a few glanced at her. Quick looks, curious, measuring. Minutes passed, then 10 more. At exactly 10:20, a man in a gray suit stepped out of one of the glass offices, holding a tablet. He looked around briefly before his eyes landed on Amara. There was a flicker of surprise, almost unnoticeable, but it was there. "Amara Johnson," he said, as if confirming something unexpected. "Yes," she replied, standing up. "Right. Follow me." The interview room was clean, minimal, almost cold. 2 other people sat inside, both already looking at their laptops. They barely glanced up as she entered. "Have a seat," one of them said, without introducing himself. Amara sat down, placing her portfolio neatly on the table. She waited for the usual formalities. Introductions, a handshake, something. It didn't come. So, the man with the tablet began, flipping through her file. "You've had quite a background." There was something in the way he said it. Not impressed. Not curious. Just skeptical. "Yes," Amara replied calmly. Another interviewer leaned back slightly, crossing his arms. "You went to Stanford?" "I did." "Full scholarship?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yes." A brief silence followed. Not the kind that invites conversation. The kind that shuts it down. The questions that followed were short, surface level, nothing that matched the depth of her experience, nothing that gave her a real chance to speak. It felt less like an interview and more like a formality they wanted to get over with. At one point, one of them checked his watch. Another typed something on his laptop without looking up. Amara noticed everything, but she didn't react. She answered each question clearly, professionally, without giving them any reason to justify whatever assumptions they had already made. After less than 15 minutes, the man in the gray suit closed the tablet. "Well, thank you for coming in," he said. That was it. No discussion, no follow-up, no real engagement. Amara nodded, standing up. "Thank you for your time." As she walked out, she could feel it again. That same quiet dismissal. That same decision already made before she even sat down. Back at the reception, the woman didn't even look up this time. Amara walked out of the building, the glass doors closing behind her with that same soft mechanical sound. Outside, the air felt different. Not heavier, clearer. She paused for a moment, looking up at the building. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. "Proceed," she said simply. Inside, everything changed within minutes. An email, marked urgent, sent directly to the executive floor. The subject line froze everyone who read it. "Partnership review, immediate attention required." The name at the bottom. Amara Johnson, CEO, a multi-billion-dollar firm they had been trying to secure a deal with for months. The same woman who had just walked out of their office, dismissed in under 15 minutes. Panic spread quickly. Calls were made, emails sent. Get her back. Fix this. How did this happen? The same people who couldn't spare her attention were now scrambling for it. But outside, as a sleek black car pulled up in front of her, Amara didn't look back. Because she already knew they had their chance. And they chose wrong. Amara didn't rush as she stepped into the black car. Her movements remained composed, controlled, the same calm energy she had carried into that building. The door closed softly behind her, sealing off the noise, the glass walls, the people who had already made their decision about her long before she spoke her first word. Inside, the atmosphere was quiet, focused. Her assistant, Daniel Harper, sat across from her with a tablet already in hand, his expression serious but not surprised. "They didn't recognize you," he said, glancing up briefly. Amara looked out the window as the car began to move. The reflection of the corporate tower slid across the glass, shrinking as they pulled away. No, she replied simply. They didn't. Daniel hesitated for a moment. Do you want me to delay the partnership review? Amara finally turned her gaze toward him. There was no anger in her eyes, no frustration, just clarity. No, she said. Proceed exactly as planned. Daniel nodded, tapping a few commands into his tablet. Within seconds, the wheels were already in motion. Emails sent, calls initiated, decisions triggered that would ripple through that company faster than anyone inside could understand. Back in the office, the shift was immediate. The same reception desk where Amara had been casually dismissed was now surrounded by hurried voices and tense expressions. The receptionist who barely looked at her earlier now stared at her screen, her face drained of color. I didn't know, she whispered, more to herself than anyone else. Upstairs, the interview room was no longer calm. The man in the gray suit paced back and forth, running a hand through his hair. How does this happen? He snapped. How do we not know who we're interviewing? One of the other interviewers swallowed hard. Her name was on the list, but there was no flag, no indication. The man interrupted sharply. We're talking about a CEO we've been trying to secure for 6 months. Silence followed. Heavy, uncomfortable, because, deep down, they all knew the truth. It wasn't that they didn't have enough information. It was that they didn't look closely enough. And now, it was too late. Within the hour, the entire executive floor was involved. Emergency meetings were called. Screens lit up with financial projections, partnership outlines, risk assessments. The potential deal with Amara's company wasn't just important, it was critical. Losing it could mean millions in losses, investor backlash, and a serious dent in the company's future. Get her back on the phone, one executive demanded. We're trying, another replied, frustration clear in his voice. Her off list isn't responding directly, then go higher. Meanwhile, in the car, Amara remained silent for most of the ride. The city moved around her busy streets, towering buildings, people rushing through their own lives. She had seen this pattern before. Different cities, different offices, same outcome. Daniel finally spoke again, more carefully this time. You've handled situations like this before. But this one feels different. Amara's lips curved slightly, but it wasn't a smile. It's not different, she said. It just looks different on the surface. He nodded slowly, understanding. Because it wasn't about one interview. It never was. When the car pulled up to her office building, the contrast was clear, sleek, modern, but alive with purpose. As she stepped out, the energy shifted instantly. Staff members greeted her with respect, with awareness, with recognition. Not forced, not performative, real. Good morning, Miss Johnson. Morning. She walked through the lobby without slowing down, her presence commanding attention without demanding it. Inside the elevator, Daniel glanced at his tablet again. They've escalated, he said. Multiple requests for an urgent call. They want to apologize. Amara looked at the closing elevator doors. Of course they do. The doors slid shut. Upstairs, her office floor was already prepared. Screens displayed live updates, data streams, projections. Her team was ready, focused, sharp. Status, she said as she walked in. Initial outreach received. One team member responded. They're requesting immediate reconsideration, offering revised terms. Projected loss on their end, she asked. Significant, and another replied, if we walk away, they take a major hit this quarter. Amara nodded once, absorbing the information. Set up the call, she said. Back at the other company, the atmosphere was tense as the video conference finally connected. Faces that once showed disinterest now carried urgency, concern, even a hint of desperation. The screen flickered. Then Amara appeared, calm, composed, in control. The same woman they had dismissed less than an hour ago. Miss Johnson, the man in the gray suit began quickly. I want to personally apologize for... Amara raised her hand slightly, stopping him. You've already made your decision, she said, her voice steady, not raised, but powerful enough to silence the room. No one spoke. 15 minutes, she continued. That's how long it took for you to decide I wasn't worth your time. The words landed heavier than any accusation. We didn't have all the information. One of them tried to explain. Amara's gaze didn't shift. You had everything you needed. Another silence. Because again, they knew it was true. She leaned back slightly, her posture relaxed, but her presence dominating the entire call. You didn't ask the right questions. You didn't look beyond what you expected to see. And now, you're asking for a second chance. No one interrupted her this time. Tell me, she said, her tone sharpening just slightly. If I had looked different, would this conversation have gone the same way? No one answered, because they couldn't. Minutes passed as the weight of that question filled the room. Finally, the senior executive spoke, his voice quieter now. No, he admitted. That single word changed everything. Not because it fixed anything, but because it exposed the truth completely. Amara nodded slowly. That's what I thought. She let the silence sit for a moment longer before continuing. This isn't just about a deal, she said. It's about how you operate, who you value, and what you choose to ignore. Her team remained silent behind the scenes, letting her lead. Here's what's going to happen, she said finally. We will proceed with a revised evaluation of this partnership. But understand this clearly. The terms are no longer the same. The executive straightened slightly, listening carefully. You don't just get access to what we've built, she continued. You earn it, and right now, you haven't. No one argued, because they couldn't afford to. And one more thing, Amara added, her voice steady, unwavering. The next time someone walks into your office, you don't get to decide their value in 15 minutes. She paused, because you might not get another chance to be wrong. The call ended. Silence filled the room on both sides. But this time, it wasn't the same silence as before. This one came with realization and consequences.